provided by our bloggers or authors are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, municipality, individual, or anyone or anything.
He's a surgeon. He's a 100-ton boat captain. He's a lieutenant on Seaside Heights Beach Patrol in New Jersey. He's a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. He's Dr. Michael Kachmar. Need answers to your medical questions? We have them. Listen in to hear latest on medical topics related to all that and more.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Michael Kachmar. Welcome to our show, Scrubbing Up with Dr. Michael Kachmar. Today's date is April the 19th, I believe, year of our Lord, 2025 AD. That's right. This is so I'm a board-certified reconstructive foot and ankle surgeon practicing in New Jersey. We've been doing this show for probably, 7, 8 years now.
8 years,
and we do political, medical, all kinds of stuff. But we try to stick with foot and ankle surgery. But unfortunately, in this past 10 years, it's been getting crazy with the politics.
Shit happens.
Yeah, we do have Jeremy here. Jeremy, you want to say hello?
You know me. I'm your old pal, Jeremy. How you doing?
And Jeremy, just tell them how they get a hold of us, especially our webpage, because that's where they should go.
For information about what Dr. Michael Kachmar does, you can call and make an appointment. He's the master of the lower extremities. If you got anything going on, wounds, anything. Like
Second opinions, third opinion. We like doing surgical opinions.
Yeah, he does. So that phone number to make an appointment with Dr. Kachmar is 732-269-1133. That's 732-269-1133. And then we have his website, which is JerseyShoreFootAndLegCenter.com. I would also like to remind people to share and subscribe. So you see us on YouTube, subscribe. If you see us on Facebook, like. If you do that, you will get notifications when me and Dr. Kachmar go live, and you won't miss you won't miss a minute of it.
Yeah, we're on X, we're on Rumble, we're on Instagram, so we're on everything. We have podcasts. So let's start talking some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. Yeah. First of all, I just want to remind everybody we do have a heel clinic in my practice. Mm-hmm. Heel pain is very, very common. We see about 40 cases a week of heel pain. I think, have it down to such a fine, polished machine. 99.9% of people that have heel pain, we get them feeling better within a month or so and without surgery.
Yeah, so now is really the time, because summer's coming, some beautiful days ahead of us, and you don't want to be limping through it all.
No. So we have a lot of good techniques. But it's really sad. If you got heel pain, you've been seeing somebody, and it's been months and months and months. Get out of there. Yeah. Get it come for a second opinion. But if you have heel pain, and there's a lot of reasons for heel pain. You could go back to archive one of our shows, heel pain. But I just wanted to throw it out. We were one of the premier heel pain clinics. I think we're one of the only heel pain clinics in Ocean and Monmouth County. In fact, state New Jersey, I don't even know if there is a heel pain clinic. We're probably the only one. And I have almost 40 years of experience. I'm board certified in not only foot surgery, but I'm board certified in rear foot and ankle. And I would recommend that you ask your doctor if they are board certified like I am. Probably 80% of these doctors, 70, 80%, are not. And I don't understand why these people go to these surgeons who are not board certified. And what does that mean? I have a lot of credentials. So I'm board certified again, not qualified, certified. And I'm up to date on foot surgery and rear foot and ankle.
But what you said before about heel pain, how it shouldn't, this is something you can heal like that.
Heel pain can be healed.
If you're going to the right guy. So going to an actual heel center,
that's right,
that Dr. Kachmar has, stop walking around. Stop going to people who don't know, who don't specialize in this stuff. Go to Dr. Kachmar, and in no time, the pain will be gone, and you can go about your life. That's what we do.
Right, and we accept almost all insurances, and you know, why go to a doctor who's not taking care of you? That's stupid.
Right.
So anyway, let's move on to the next topic here. And during my years of practice, I was a first assist, so I assisted a plastic surgeon for way over 10 years.
I didn't even know that until earlier when you.
Yeah. Well, I did a first assist, you know, for general surgery, for orthopedics. You know, as a foot and ankle specialist or any doctor, you could assist any other doctor, and if you feel so inclined to do. But I assisted a plastic surgeon.
But that opens your eyes up to a lot of different things.
Yeah. Well, what was happening was, so we used to see a lot of dog bites, and you know, on the face, on the legs, on the arm, on the hands, and dog bites are horrific injuries, because what happens is, if you look at my hand, that the tooth is like when it
curved.
It curves and it cuts inside.
It's almost like a hook.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can't just a lot of times suture these up. You got to open them up and drain them and clean them, and they're dirty. So anyway, they're a real horror show.
Right.
And but back in the day, you know, a lot of times it was the family dog. You didn't have as much of these pit bull, you know, things. And I know people say, "Oh, pit bulls don't cause injuries," but
give me a break.
But here's the deal. My brother-in-law got bit by my sister's Akita. They were playing on the house, and the dog bit his lip. You know, he had to have surgery done. You know, it split his lip right in half. And
did it leave him disfigured?
I don't know. He was disfigured to begin with. I'm only kidding. But you know, and I've seen parrots do this. You know, but anyway, so. What happened now, this article came up, and I want to bring it up because this is interesting. So now, before we go to the video, I'm going to ask you a question. So now, if your dog, right, gets loose and goes across the goes to the neighbor's house and kills them, mauls them, should you be legally responsible for that? And is that dog killing somebody leave you open to manslaughter charges?
Yeah, because
murder or whatever.
Yeah, because the dog is the weapon.
All right, but you didn't want it to happen.
You didn't want it to happen, but you know, weapons. You get weapon lockers. There's things that you deal with, so they don't accidents happen. But with dogs, that's why it's important to keep them leashed.
Right. Well, this dog supposedly broke out of the fence. But let's go to the case. Go to the video.
Let's go to the video tape.
So here it is. This was USA Today, which is I would say a reasonable.
It's well known.
Well known.
You know, everybody knows it.
So this is Pickaway County, Ohio. After fatal dog attack, this is the attraction here. This is the lead. After fatal dog attack, mom and son get more than 10 years amid push for owner penalty. So these people got convicted for 10 years. So
wait. So they're seeing they're seeing prison time?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So listen to the article. An Ohio mother and son were sentenced to more than a decade in prison after their two pit bulls fatally mauled a 17-year-old neighbor.
Yeah.
Susan Am's Winner's two dogs, Apollo and Echo, got out of their condo through a front door with a broken latch and violently attacked this other person. In February, a Pickaway County jury convicted them of felony involuntary manslaughter and violations of the state's dog laws. Goes on to say witnesses, the people were sentenced to 14 to 19 years in prison and can apply for judicial release after a decade. So they even got more. And listen to this. So listen to this. This is, I wish I could give you more. Pickaway County Common Pleas Court Judge Matthew Calfin told them. He recommended that they never be allowed to own pets when they get out. So
he says, I don't think they're going to be bothered by that anymore. I mean, of course they're not going to own anything, you know. But you know what, though, Mike? The reason why people get pit bulls are for the very reason of this article, because they think it's badass and all of that, and they don't really think about all it takes is something to snap inside that animal's brain, and your face is off.
Yeah. So.
You know?
says the investigation revealed how dangerous dog attacks across Ohio cause disfigurement, amputations, psychological trauma. So across the nation, dogs have bitten, mauled, and killed an increasing number of people in recent years. Nationwide, 1 million of the people bitten by dogs require medical treatment each year. 1 million people a year? Children under 10 account for nearly half of bite victims and are overrepresented in fatalities. So more has to be done to save lives. I just want to go here. So these people, here's the people who got sentenced. Here she is crying. They were working. So here's the thing. What happened during the dog attack? So the person who got killed had been working in a garden plot on a patio between her condo and the people who owned the dog's condo in 2024. Her 84-year-old husband, who suffered from dementia and Parkinson's disease, witnessed the mauling from the screened-in porch. The way she died was terrible. Goes on and on.
Yeah,
It's just horrible.
She was She was fully conscious. She was terrorized. She suffered and knew it the entire time. Her son, Bill Rogers, at the sentencing. So I'll be quite straight with you. There is no hole deep or dark enough. There is no hell hot enough. There is no penalty harsh enough. Yeah. Wow, that's
it's pretty heavy duty. So if you go here, what's interesting,
that's like locking them up and throwing away the key.
Right. So what's interesting, the dog has a previous. So let me just go here. Associate property manager. So they're suing everybody. So here, 12 years in prison.
Put the dog down. Did they?
Yeah, I'm probably sure they did.
Yeah.
And it was, the son was less, but they got the son and the mother, which is interesting. So here it goes. Here it says, currently, Ohio laws are misdemeanors, punishable with fines up to $25 and restriction of handling the dog in future. In rare cases, prosecutors can seek felony charges if records show prior vicious or dangerous behavior from the dog that later kills the person. One of the dogs that killed this woman had previously been designated as a dangerous dog after it attacked another condo resident. And killed her puppy in October 2023. Under Ohio law, the witness did not have to put the dog down after the attack. Instead, they were ticketed and required to buy a dangerous dog tag, post a sign on their property, keep the dog confined, and walk him on the muzzle a short chain.
She got the dog tag 271 days after the attack.
That's almost a year.
Yeah, I mean that's you know what? I think that's reckless.
Right. Well, that's why they got convicted. At trial, police testified that the people who owned the dog, front door didn't latch, and a towel had been jammed into the space that previously had the deadbolt. Law enforcement shot and killed both dogs in the aftermath. So they just went over there and shot the fucking dog. Excuse my language. And probably enjoyed it too. Appearing in court, handcuffed and chained. I'm totally sorry that all this happened. No shit, you're sorry. You're sorry that you got caught. You're sorry that you're going to jail. That's what you're sorry about. So anyway, witnesses cried. Police video of the pit bulls being shot and hearing the description of the third dog being held at the pound. The judge said neither showed emotion toward their neighbors. Anyway, let's go back to me. So I just want to unpack this. So a couple things. One is, as a surgeon, I've done a lot of, operations on people who've been bitten by dogs. Yeah. They're horrible injuries. A lot of times they get infected. They cause scars and everything. And plus, with the emotional aspect. It seems to me, people tell me, "Oh, it's not the breed. But why is it every effing time?
Yeah,
it's a pit bull. Yeah, all right, that's number one.
Number two, if the breed is that notoriously dangerous, right. See, and this is what I'm thinking about. So what do you do from here on out?
Give the dog to your uncle who you don't like.
Well, I think they should mandatory training.
Well, they did. Here's the thing.
Did they really?
No. Here's the thing. Yeah. If you read that article, they had to have a tag. They had to walk in with a muzzle. So the town is being, I think, exceptionally reasonable. Okay, that's your loved dog. Maybe it was a one-off, and so they want you to do all this stuff. Yeah. But what I'm saying, but they didn't follow it, and dogs killed somebody. So now pay the penalty. So buyer be aware. You have a dog, and that dog does something, bites somebody, does something crazy. You better think about twice about maybe euthanizing that dog, or getting, doing something with
Or
it
taking greater lengths
because you're going to go to jail. These people got sentenced to almost 20 years. The mother and son.
yeah. See,
Think about that, Jeremy.
Letting this dog
And the
run
poor woman
around,
got killed. Right,
run
right.
around loose in their backyard, whether there's a chance for it to jump a fence or something like that.
Right.
You know what? That's it. They did it. I mean, they could have leashed that dog in the yard, given him a tether so he could run around. But he's still you're still protecting others from him.
You're starting to see more and more of this. So remember,
but it's these very same people, though, Mike, that will trumpet. These are gentle dogs. People misunderstand them and all of that.
Well, I'm pointing out more. I understand that. But my thing is the law now. It's changing.
Yeah.
So you had this shooting not too long ago where the parents were convicted, tried and convicted. Remember the kid who shot up a school or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
So they indicted the mother and father.
I remember that.
Okay?
Yeah.
And they're in jail. And so you're getting if bartenders used to be, if you gave the person booze and they drove off and killed somebody, you get charged. It's getting more and more. So I think what you have to realize is that, if you say you have a gummy bear, and you're high, and you cause an accident and somebody gets killed, you're going to be charged with murder, with manslaughter.
Yeah.
And you could be looking at heavy duty jail time. Here's a mother and son who. They didn't go out and shoot anybody, but they basically were reckless with a dangerous dog.
Sure.
And now they're going to pay the penalty. And not only that, there's the condo is going to be sued, but they're going to get sued civilly. These people, and if they got any money or a house, that's gone. And when they get out of jail, they're felony. They can't hold a job. They license. They can't whatever.
And I bet you they're sitting in prison thinking this is bullshit.
I don't know what they're thinking.
No, because what else are you going to think? If you're in that frame of mind where you love the animals and all of that, and this is, misunderstand this is an accident, and I got to spend 10 years in prison, they probably think the charge is bullshit.
Jeremy, I could tell you, I've seen people where it's like a fist fight, right? You talk about like somebody punches somebody, and it's a young kid hits an old guy, and the guy falls down and cracks his head open. That's murder, man, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. You should go to jail for the rest of your life. Oh, I just punched him. Bullshit. The other thing is when people are reckless. If you're reckless, I see people driving through parking lots at high rates of speed. You're reckless, and this is what you need. You need to have more people held accountable, because like these people with the dog. Now, I tell you what, if I had a dog, first of all, I wouldn't have a pit bull or anything. But if one of my dogs bit a kid or killed another dog or another animal, that's it. That dog's done. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'd love to. I'd take the dog and have the vet put him down. Yeah. You're not. We had a dog
when I was a kid. I thought that was the thing. If a dog bites a child or attacks somebody, it gets put down, and then that's that. Because we used to say like once it gets a taste of
blood, meat,
it'll attack again. Yeah.
We had a dog. I was very, very young, probably 5-6 years old. Well, it wasn't even my dog; it was my uncle's dog. Bit a neighbor, bit a kid, did something really bad. They took the dog down in the basement and shot him. This is back in probably 60s. Yeah, but what's that? Oh, that's your phone. So you're thank you, Jeremy. So anyway,
I try to remain very antisocial so I don't get calls. But
anyway, you're the one in the audience when I go to do a lecture and I say everybody shut their phones off, please. It's distracting, and all of a sudden it's like ling 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 ling, and I'm like, what an idiot. Maroon.
You're maroon.
So I think that I just want to say that you got to be careful. I would not leave a dog. I would not leave a baby, a child, alone with a dog. I don't care, even if it's a golden Labrador, whatever. Dogs are dogs, and you made a good point. You never know when they could snap. I know there's a lot of videos out there that dogs are very loving, and I guess too you got to know the dog. But I tell you what, you got to be very careful.
Yeah, because we're using this pit bull story as
but it could be any dog,
for instance. But I have heard any dog. Like, I've heard the story about, we had this dog for years and years and years, nothing. He was always kind and gentle. But sometimes, even when I'm petting my own dog, and I got my face so close to his, and I'm rubbing up against him, his face, and his face is rubbing up against mine, I wonder,
Well, listen, people snap. My point is though.
Yeah, if people
the
snap,
big.
You don't think dogs are
right.
going to snap?
It's a cautionary tale. I want to tell people though, you're liable now.
Yeah.
More if you got a gun in the house and your kid takes that gun and goes kill somebody, you're liable.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about liable not civilly, criminally.
Criminally.
Your dog does some bad shit, you could be held criminally, not civilly. It used to be civil. Now you're talking criminal, and it's going to continue on more and more. And even like some people want to say, well, you say something on the internet or something, a derogatory, and something happens. My point is, be aware. And this is a terrible case.
I want to go back to the wound itself. You said it's a nightmare. It's a mess.
Well, because the teeth dig in.
Go through everything that's done.
Well,
and what you have to do.
Well, it's just that what happens is when it punctures it, it's not just a puncture wound. Yeah. The dog is tearing, so it's a kind of like a semicircle, and those are very deep wounds. A lot of times, and they have a high level of infection. A lot of times you need to open them up and clean them out and then suture them.
Is
they're
the
deep.
infection due to anything that might be in the
dog's
mouth?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Parasites or whatever like that.
Plus, a lot of times it's dirty. If they bite you and you're on the lawn or something, on the grass, you're rolling around, the wounds get dirty.
Right.
Sure, it's a horror show. But I'm going to go back and say, listen, if you have a dog that has a history of violence, and then that dog kills somebody, you're going to go to jail.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got another one. I want to talk about one more, and this is another thing, and this is an interesting case that came up. This is, in my opinion, I talked about this because this is how news and the media could be misleading. I don't know why what this individual is thinking here, but in the United States, you have Medicaid and Medicare. They're two different animals. Okay, Medicaid is basically, every state has their own Medicaid. Okay, that's Medicaid, Medicaid. That's for basically people who, poor people who have money, and it's welfare. It's kind of like welfare, and it gives you some level of medical care. Okay. And you have to meet certain criteria to be eligible for Medicaid. Right. You can't make a certain amount of money. You know what I'm saying? Just like food stamps, just like stuff like that. The other one is Medicare. And Medicare, everybody gets, if you're an American citizen, well, even now, even if you're not, but over 65, you get Medicare. Medicare is a federal financed medical coverage. And they pay 80% of the care, not 100%. People don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand that either. They pay 80%. You say, well, what about the 20%? Well, you get a supplement.
Yeah.
A supplement.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm going to get Medicare, I will get Medicare, and then I'll get a supplement, and say Blue Shield or whatever. Or you could put it all together and get an Advantage plan. It's called Advantage plan. Okay. Now, this lady here.
The Advantage plans aren't very good, though.
Well, no, they're getting better. I have a lot of them coming in now, like Braven and everything. They're getting better. But that's besides the point. Whether or not they're good or bad, it's there. You have coverage. Yeah. We're not going to get into what's good and bad.
There's options.
Right. And so what happened with this woman, what I understand is she had probably Medicare, but they don't say, and she probably had a secondary Medicaid. But she was getting more money from Social Security now, because Trump is, so Social Security is coming around. So she's making. So now
it's not being taxed.
Now,
or whatever. Because
she's getting $2,000 a month from Social Security, which is another governmental entity that gives you money after 62 or whatever your age is. Yeah. Now she's making too much money to be eligible for Medicaid, but she still gets Medicare. So let's go to the article. So here it is, and this says boomer. Boomer means
baby boomer.
Baby boomer.
Yeah.
That means she's her age. So a boomer lost Medicaid because she gets $2,065 monthly from Social Security. Now she needs to work to afford back surgery. And I read this article here, and well, first of all, she could get an Advantage plan, and then she but she has Medicare, They don't say that here. She has Medicare right now, and
what's going on over there?
that's my watch here. She has Medicare. She has Medicare. So it just says here, this woman, 74, needs a job to afford back surgery. She lost Medicaid due to income limits and relies solely on Social Security for necessary expenses. She's wanted. All right, so it goes on and on here, and it talks about back surgery. But I bring this article up because of this. Is this is another bullshit article where I don't think these people who are doing this understand what's out there. Everybody is entitled to Medicare, okay? And that'll pay 80%. And then you have to get the secondary. But if you want, you could get an Advantage plan. And it will cover everything, okay? It even takes care of that secondary. And I don't want to get into a whole big thing, but this is, read this article here. So this article was out of, let me see who wrote this article. Business Insider. I don't know what that is. Cincinnati. This is, can you pronounce, I don't know who wrote this. Something Ding and Noah Schreiler. I don't know.
Yeah, go back up. Go back up. It's Jira Deng and Noah Schiedlower.
Right. So, and if you go,
that's a mouthful.
Yeah, if you go down here and read the article, it's another hit piece in my opinion. And you could, it says right here. This is some of the people who I always like the people who comments.
Yeah.
This is a big fat lie. She gets Social Security. She also gets Medicare, regardless of her income. Bang, and it says she does get Medicare. Okay, well she gets Medicare. Why is there an issue then? It's the secondary. Okay. So I'm not going to go belay this, but this is a one where, don't believe everything you read on the internet. That's my point. Go back to me, Jeremy.
Yeah, sure thing.
Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Because there's always two sides to the story, and there's also a lot of different things that are going on here. But just to clarify this, and I don't want, you can spend hours, and no matter what you tell patients, they don't get it. But you have Medicare and Medicaid. They're two different things. And then you have Social Security, which is, money in your pocket. You have the Advantage plans now that are getting better and better, so if you don't have any money, you're down on your ass. You make nothing. You could get an Advantage plan, and if you're over 65, and that'll cover your medical expenses.
Right.
You probably don't even need to, and I don't think you have to pay any money, So I might be wrong on that if they don't have to pay any money, but she could have Medicare and try to go to a doctor who won't, take the 20%, or she gets a bill and she has to pay it over time. A lot of these doctors, I don't know if it's all across the board, but I would never deny somebody care. Like if you come to the emergency room and you need care and if you don't have insurance or you only have Medicare, we're going to treat you. But anyway, getting back to here though, this is an interesting article, and I think it's the same old stuff where you slant things towards a different, what you want is an agenda. I don't know what they're trying to push here. Basically this poor woman, lose because everybody's Social Security, Medicare, because of Trump and all of that shit,
Yeah.
But that's bullshit. Anyway, so that's it. Anything else you want to talk about, Jeremy? Is there anything in the news you want to just hit a little politics real quick?
Yeah, we can hit a little pot. I mean, I was talking with Dr. Flynn in in my last show, Painless with Dr. Gabriel Jasper, and I asked him like, do you feel a difference in the medical industry now that we've got the Trump administration running things, as opposed to how things were during the COVID years with Biden and all of that? Do you see that doctors are a little bit more freer? You can speak your mind a little bit more.
Yeah, let me.
Is that actually going on?
Let me make a point here, because I'm sorry, Joe. I had me. Let me make a point. During the Biden administration, and even like when Trump, things weren't. There's a lot of stuff that gets out there. The government. One thing about right now with the government, it's more transparent all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like night and day. And if you can't appreciate that, you're right.
Transparent.
But I want to pull this article up. Here's another article I have.
What can you say against it if it's right there in your face? There it is.
Put this up for me. This is another point. Sure. This is something that, you talk about transparency. This is an article that came out here. So this is a deadly E. coli outbreak hit 15 states, but the FDA chose not to publicize it. The outbreak linked to romaine lettuce killed one person and sickened at least 88 more, including a 9-year-old boy who nearly died of kidney failure. And the only other thing I bring this up is that this was during the Biden administration.
Yeah.
And they do crazy things.
Right.
And so with JFK in there, you could go back to me with JFK. Robert Kennedy Jr. RFK, excuse me.
RFK Jr.
Yeah, I hope at least one thing he does is bring transparency to the whole process.
Yeah.
You need that.
I think so.
And Biden administration and even Barack Obama, I think started this whole thing where things were kind of like shady. They didn't tell you what was going on.
Right.
Trump tried to open it, but now there's a lot of light being put on things. As far as medicine in the United States, it's totally changed. Affordable Health Care Act, in my opinion, destroyed the patient-doctor relationship.
Right.
And Newt Gingrich wrote about this a lot. So here's what.
Explain that though. I want to see how. I want you to tell.
Back
how it was affected.
before. Let's just go back 30 years ago.
Okay.
All right. So this is how it worked in the United States.
Yeah.
You had health care insurance through your employer. A lot of people worked. So you worked for Standard Oil. You worked for General Motors. Wherever you worked.
Right.
You got insurance. The employer would get you insurance. Why did the employer get you insurance, health insurance? Because if you work for me and I pay you $20 an hour, okay, I got to pay payroll tax on that. So in other words, I pay you $100. I have to give $6 to Uncle Sam for your it's called unemployment insurance or employee insurance, and you got to pay 6%.
Right.
That's on your FICA and all of that, right? Okay. Well, if I give you health insurance, instead of giving you a raise and you buy it on your own, I don't have to pay that 6%.
Gotcha.
And it's on overhead, so I don't pay taxes on it either.
Right.
Because that's money, it's my profit I take and I give to you through an insurance. So it's a great deal. Insurance, but the government loses billions and billions of dollars.
Right.
Okay, so there's that, and so you had that. If you were over 65, you got Medicare. Okay? That covered, and you get a secondary. And then the people who have no money, poor people, or people who just didn't have insurance, young people, and they got an injury, you would have Medicaid, which was pretty damn good. So if you came into the hospital and you got fell down a flight of stairs and broke your leg, and you had no insurance, say you were 22 years old, we could call the state and get you covered in about 2 hours.
Right.
So it was pretty good, and it paid the doctors very well.
Right.
And the hospital, and everything was fine. Then what happened was that, especially during the Clinton years, when all the jobs started moving out of the United States.
Oh yeah.
They went to China.
Yeah.
Which
is what President Trump is trying to fix now.
Right. And I can tell you right now, it wasn't just the Democrats; it was the Republicans. They thought it would be better to offshore all this stuff and get cheaper goods.
Sure.
So what happened is you gutted the a lot of factory workers, a lot of jobs.
Yeah, the whole American economy.
So now
you just stripped.
Right. So you had people who were 50 years old with no insurance because they have no job, and they try to get a job working somewhere, but the job didn't have medical benefits. So now they're what do? They try to buy it on their own, but it got more expensive. So then it came along that Barack Obama, but a lot of people were coping. But then when Barack Obama became president, there was a push. They said, well, we got about 10 to 15 million people in the United States with no insurance, which was true.
And
this was
the birth of Obamacare.
Yeah, but here's the thing. What you could have done easily, if you really wanted to fix it quickly, efficiently, is maybe give the people who are, instead of 65, make it 60 for Medicare, and fund the states with Medicaid. So lower the age of Medicare to 60 instead of 65. That'll pick up a lot of people, and then give the states more money for Medicaid, and that would have taken care of it. The systems are there. All you had to do was fund them. You didn't have to create another bureaucracy. Yeah. No. What they wanted to do,
stimulus checks.
What they wanted to do is they wanted to get a Barack Obamacare, affordable health care, because they wanted to bring corporate America, or what they did is they brought corporate America into medicine.
Right.
Also, what they did is they mandated certain things that need to be done, which could be good or bad. One of the things they mandated is, you cannot get knocked off for existing illnesses, which is still goes on, though, believe it or not. And gender affirming care. And that was mandated the insurance companies to cover it. And in New Jersey, for example, you have United Healthcare, which is contracted by the state of New Jersey for Medicaid, for the poor people. And they have 15 procedures that they will cover and pay for gender-affirming treatment. 15. You can go to their webpage, unitedhealthcare.org. It's and it's Medicaid. So if you're poor, they'll cover it. Okay, on taxpayer dollar, by the way. Right. So things like that. So you have these things that are going on, and corporate America came in. So before Barack Obamacare, you couldn't own a urgent care center. There wasn't money around. Right. You couldn't own a radiology. You couldn't be involved in medicine and selling it and putting it out there without a doctor, without being a doctor. Now, anybody could own a surgery center, own an urgent care center, own a radiology group or anesthesiology group. So you hit the lottery tomorrow. You could be Joe Bag of Donuts, pumping gas, didn't graduate high school because you're a fucking moron, excuse my language, hit the lottery, and you could go buy a radiology, you could hire a bunch of radiologists, pay them big money, buy a building, put an MRI in there, get the state licenses, and you could run it. Now, the doctors are going to have a lot of say in the matter, but you could still own it. And then, of course, if you got shareholders and things of that nature, and that's what's happening with the hospitals. Hospitals is another entity. So hospitals supposed to be nonprofit, but the hospitals now are buying up doctor practices, so they're going to have, so they got to capture the audience. Anyway, that's where it's going. So, in my opinion, doctors now are hired guns. They're working. They're working stiffs. And the employee tells them, "Well, hang on, hold that thought."
This was the last 4 years now we're talking about.
Right. No. This has been going on
before
past
that. Okay.
Even before Barack Obamacare. But
gotcha.
So you got to. That's been 10 years now. What happens now is that you're an employee, and you could be fired. And doctors have no unions,
right.
no recourse, and the hospitals. And these corporate entities, these investment bankers, they want to make a profit.
Yeah.
So they're going to try to stay within the law. Not try, they're going to. But there's a lot of things that happen with what's considered good care, bad care. It's not. It's because medicine is kind of like a little bit of a not only this is what has to be done, but there's a little art there. And you could argue, you could put 10 doctors in a room and say, what's the best way to fix a bunion? And you'll have those guys will be killing each other at the end of the argument.
Different
absolutely. Look at what Dr. Jasper, back surgeons. I give you good plastic surgeons and ear, nose, and throat doctors. Ear, nose, and throat doctors, do plastic surgery to face. Plastic surgeons say bullshit, and there's turf wars all over the place.
Turf wars, that's good.
So, so my point is that I think that what Affordable Health Care Act did was, number one, destroy the patient-doctor relationship.
Yeah.
Number two, it, in my opinion, and I see this going on, it reduced the amount of oversight, the peer review. We used to have peer review in all the hospitals.
Yeah.
So the whole situation of having a hospital with administration and then having a medical executive committee with doctors fighting for the patient's rights and the nurse's rights, that's deteriorating because the whole model's changing.
Well, see,
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
no, I
don't think it's good. I don't see anybody talking about it.
So the original question I asked, which you haven't answered, okay, is now that Trump's in office, do you see some of the change occurring in your field?
No, because they're not addressing it right now.
Right.
They're not. That's not their priority right now. I mean, what may happen? No, I can tell you.
You can speak freer. You can act freer. No, as a doctor.
I don't know. I'm not in there right now. So
I'm just interested in like the real time
effects. I think what has affected medicine significantly is the diversity hires. I see over the past, and this has been going on for years
Yeah,
in New Jersey. I see a decline in the excellence, the meritocracy. I see people who are getting in
because of color or
whatever. Yes,
gender
quotas.
quotas.
So you got to remember when Carter, President Carter, became president. I was a young lad at that time, and I was just getting out of high school, going into college, and they passed affirmative action. This is back in the 70s. So basically, for you to get into a school, you didn't have to have the grades. You had to be poor enough. Okay, and if you were poor enough, you got in. Doesn't matter if you could, make it or not. And it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said no, that you can't do this. Like my father worked for General Motors, right, in Linden.
Yeah.
And what they did is they went in, they said, listen, and they were making pretty good cars. They went in and they said, you got to have a certain amount of minority working in General Motors because it reflects the environment. So in other words, they were in Linden. If it was 20% black or Hispanic, you got to have 20% in the factory working.
Right.
And so now they had to get quotas, and they got to hire whoever they got to hire. If they can't get enough people who are qualified, they had to cook the books and get them in.
Right.
Okay. So that's what happened there, and so then the quality started to go down.
But when you said that they're trying to buy doctors' practices and stuff, the hospitals.
Well, let me make a point. But that's because. But you're asking me.
Once they get those doctors' patient files and stuff, they can add that to their statistics, and it's sketchy.
No.
But
point. You're asking me what has happened with Donald Trump. What I think is going to change.
That's what they tried to do with the doctor friend of ours.
Right. What I think what's going to change now, might change, is that now there's a push for not to just go for the diverse, but for the qualified. So, in other words, if you go back and look at Martin Luther King and Lincoln and all the founding fathers, it was an ideal of equality of opportunity. In fact, Civil War, if in the bigger picture, was fought for equality of opportunity. Everybody should have an opportunity, including the black, right, and then eventually women. What happened in the Barack Obama years, instead of equality of opportunity, it became equality of outcome. Okay, equality of outcome.
Describe the two.
Well, equality of opportunity means everybody, regardless of race, color, creed, has an opportunity, should have an opportunity to rise to the top, to go to college. Again, if you have the merit, if you have the brains, to work as a cop, to work as an airline pilot. You should not be shut down because you're black, Hispanic.
But what you said,
wait, stop. You're asking me the difference.
No, I know. You said, I know, it's part of this. You said just then that they need to be
qualified.
Yes.
Right. So if you ask me, and then the other way, equality of outcome, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you want to be an airline pilot and you're blind and you got 1 foot and one hand, well, we're going to make it happen. Right. We're going to make it happen because we want equality of outcome, which is bullshit. It'll never work. The government will have to be so big. And human nature does not play into that. So it's
President Trump brought that up as far as airlines go and pilots and people in the air traffic control towers, and ever since he mentioned that people were just getting hired for outcome,
right.
And not because they know what they're doing. You're seeing now on the news planes just dropping out of the sky.
I don't know
because
if it's
because I think before they weren't reporting them all.
No. I don't see that. I mean, I did research on it.
I see it all the time on the news. Another plane.
Yeah, but it
used to be one of the safest modes of transportation. They tried to tell us. Now it's not.
I disagree with you on that.
That's why we go and pick up my son. We drive to go pick up my son from Harvard because we don't want him flying.
Right. Well, here's the thing, Jeremy. There's a lot of YouTube stations, talk about plane crashes. There's private plane crashes, and then there's commercial. You have a lot of private all the time. It's maybe one a week, but that's been going on for years and years. And if you go look at the FAA, the statistics, it's not any more or less. It's about the same. In fact, it's dropped because there's better education, and they got these YouTube channels that are trying to educate people. As far as That doesn't mean, though, that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of people in there who are not qualified. And, how many near misses. It's hard to titrate that. You see, I have friends who say, listen, Mike, what difference does it make? If there's 50% less people who are qualified, maybe they didn't need to be that qualified to begin with. They're good enough. They're good enough. And that's dangerous, because when it does, you can see there may be a trend where a lot of things happen. I think that it was trending to a very bad scenario. It hasn't gotten so bad yet, and then we recognized it. And that's what government should do. Government should, and the people of the United States and the whole voting process, it slows it down. I mean, you had Trump, people didn't like what he was doing, and then you had Biden, and it's a horror show. So then the American public rebelled, and they put Trump in. And really it started with Barack Obama. Barack Obama came out and said, we're going to have a revolution in this country. We're going to change the fundamental way we run this country. And they tried, and they did. They changed a lot. And then you had Biden, which was basically another Barack Obama, term. And so now you have a counter-revolution. That's Trump. It's a counter-revolution. Barack Obama was a revolution. This is a counter-revolution. There's not killing in the streets and that. And the American public are good people. I think everybody on both sides. I know you, and I understand. Like this guy down in El Salvador. A lot of people feel bad for him. And I dealt with people. I had people when I was doing my training who raped and murdered a young girl, and I was treating him as a patient. The guy was the nicest guy in the world, but he was he was a monster. But you could get, because we're so generous in this country and we're so forgiving, they want to forgive. Look at this kid, and it's in the news right now. He's a black kid, and he stabbed a white kid, and he raised $500,000, and he had a knife, and he says, well, the other kid bullied him, but the other kid didn't have a knife. My point is that a lot of those people who are helping him are concerned citizens. They're nice people. They and this is what they think should be right. So if you're blind and have one foot and you want to be an airline pilot, let's that sounds great, kumbaya. But you know what? When you screw up and the family dies, or a whole plane crash. So you can't.
Rob Schneider.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
you can't. It's
totally
and like here's the thing, the military, and hold that thought. But you have now, this guy Hegseth, who's secretary of the military, and there was a guy who was running the Navy SEALs training camp, and a guy died. One of the students died. And they bounced him out of there, the captain. And there was a whole article about it. It was on Sean Ryan's show. But, these guys were all these people who went into the Navy SEALs volunteered. Yeah. And there's a good chance that the training will kill you. But you have to have that level of training. You don't think the Chinese are doing that and the Russians are doing that? Yeah. You can't send wimpy guys and girls into a Navy SEAL unit. And it's just totally ridiculous.
Untrained morons.
Right. The other thing is, hey, I understand you're transgender. You decide you want to be a woman. Kumbaya, fine. Will I hire you?
Mike, I wasn't ready to come out.
No, but my point is, though,
you just outed me.
I'm making my point about people being nice. We feel bad for you. Not bad for you. I think, hey, listen, that's not normal. I don't say it's not normal, but, you're a man, you want to be a woman.
It's hard. It's a hard language to talk around.
It's fine. If you want to do that, and I'm not going to stop you from doing it, would I hire you, work in bagel shop? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be prejudiced against you. But here's the thing. Don't tell me then that as a guy now, being a woman, that you could go compete against my granddaughter and beat the shit out of her. That's crazy. Yeah. So my point is, this is being people, but people who are on that side, they're not nasty people. They're not crazy. They want to be nice. That's what I'm saying. Right. They want to accommodate, but you can't. There's a line where you get to the point where you can't hurt. Like, you want to have the dog. We want to be nice. You got a dog. You got a pit bull. The dog bit somebody. We want to be accommodative and keep the dog, but put a muzzle on it. But here's what happened. Somebody's dead now.
You can do that too much.
Exactly. You can be too nice.
Rob Schneider, the comedian, he used to be like me, and he changed sides because he saw what was going on.
What do you mean, a man? He's a woman now?
He used to be a Democrat. You
Oh,
know, you know.
I don't know what you're talking about. What side?
I'm still.
Or gay? I could be. You say you're going the other. You're pitching for the other team.
Still pre-operative, so give me a break.
You're pitching on the other team.
Yeah. No, he would say. He said that about the planes and about the diversity. This is the last thing you're thinking about when you're sitting in, like coach classes. God, I hope the pilot is diverse. You're not thinking that at all. You're thinking, Jesus, I hope this pilot knows what the frick he's doing, and that's the bottom line, really. You're not looking for people of color who are untrained. You wish there were people of color who were completely capable, but with how they were doing it, it wasn't working.
See, let's expand that, and then we'll cut this off.
Sure.
So what it is? There's good intentions, but there's unrealized bad outcomes.
Right.
And I think a lot of these people, they're very nice, and I don't want to use the word stupid, but they're obtuse.
Obtuse is good.
And because they can't see what it's going to happen a year from now, 5 years from now, 5 chess moves down the road.
Right.
Just like if we accommodate China, it could get to the point where, they take over our country and we got troops landing here. You saw it'll never happen. Okay. But these things, you be nice. Now,
well, I mean, taking over the Panama Canal, China.
Right.
I mean, that would have been a foothold right there, and boom.
Right. So I'm going to make one point about unknown consequences of being nice.
Okay.
So I have friends who are all for open borders. Let these people in. They're poor people. A lot of these people came in. These NCOs. These nonprofit organizations. A lot of them were religious. Kumbaya. They're all Catholic. So So I'm going to just again one more thing where you're being nice. And it bites you in the ass.
Yeah. Okay, I've got something to say about this too.
Go to my YouTube. I want to show. This was one here. This is Newsbreak. This was out of publication Nashville. This is I guess Nashville News. What's the name?
George Aguilar.
That's the author. This is 5 days ago. Man arrested after 12-year-old girl he allegedly met gives birth to baby boy, according to police. 19-year-old man named, I don't even know,
Raimundo Juan Reyes Camel. I mean, that's
right. So he has 4 names. So he's from Mexico. So he's from South America, mostly Mexico. Has been arrested and charged with raping a child in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh,
this happened after a 12-year-old girl gave birth to a baby boy. There's no doubt that she had sex. The investigation started when the baby was born February 14, 2025. And uncovered a disturbing series of events that began months earlier. So listen to this one. The victim, who was only 11 years old at the time of the assault, told police she had one sexual encounter with this guy. She said she met him on Facebook. Police got the search warrant, gave him the num. Investigation still going on. Police happened to interact with this guy. He was pulled over because his car windows were too darkly tinted, again, breaking the law there. During the stop, he was also ticketed for driving without a license. The traffic stop gave detectives his address. And anyway, they went through details, goes on and on. Yeah. He admitted to having sex with the girl. However, he said he thought she was 14 at the time, not 11. Obviously, he don't understand that in the United States. That's I think if you're 18, so.
Oh, the years,
Right. But I don't think that,
I don't think that applies here.
So he's now facing serious charges. So this guy's an illegal, and I'm just trying to go here if they said anything about him, So he's an illegal. So you put me. So here you go, all you bleeding hearts, right? So no, my point is, I want to tie all this together. Right. So now you want open borders. Biden wants open borders. All these people like JoJo on X, JoJo from Jersey. She, Biden is the greatest thing. They support him. That means you support open borders because he supported open borders. Sure. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Which means then you support this guy. You're responsible, just like the lady with the dogs. We told you, don't let these people in, that they're killing people. This is nothing new. So where's the responsibility on all these people who voted for Biden, who pushed the agenda of open borders, and how about, this rape of this young girl? or the murder of these people.
Yeah.
Where does their responsibility?
Yeah.
I would love to see. I mean, I don't know how they could. I mean, like, I don't know if they're going to indict, Biden and all the people around him. But this is what I'm saying: unintentional, things happen. But should they be accountable? Right? You know what I'm saying, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Just like the people with the dog, they got 10 years more in jail. You see how I'm saying?
Yeah,
So you can't. Now this is where Trump. You asked me about Trump administration. Right. It's interesting because they're looking right now to see who they could charge for this. Who is responsible for this carnage that's going on in this country?
Yeah.
I don't care. So, it's not that many, Mike. I tell you what. I go back on my I have it on X every time. I probably put 100 posts up there of 100 different times where illegal killed somebody, drunk driving, raped somebody, murdered somebody. I mean, and this is all fresh immigrants. These aren't, my grandfather came here from Russia, so we're not going to get back. But these are illegals that came in here. They were driven on a plane from South America to the States.
Right.
That's another thing that cracks me up. This judge wants the plane brought back with this guy who is an illegal, right? But he never stopped. Why didn't he stop Biden from flying him in here to begin with?
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
So,
what are we going to say? And
well,
we got to pack it.
What I was going to say is just people on the streets and how they're affected. But you hear people like Shakira. Here we go with some celebrities: Shakira, John Leguizamo.
What do they say?
Suffering about their people and what they're doing to their people, the Hispanics that are, and we're putting the kibosh on all of that. But the flip side, right? You will see videos of Hispanic men talking freely saying, yeah, they're illegal. Get them the hell out. You know why? Because they went through the process to become a sovereign American. Okay? Yeah, he may be Hispanic, but now he's a sovereign American. And that's really the difference. And you have the left saying, but you can't go after illegals who haven't done harsh crimes. It's in the name. It's illegal.
No, well, here's
to
the
be
thing.
In the country.
Well, what they're focusing on now is a thing called due process. Yeah. And due process is in the Constitution. It's interesting when they went after Trump. All these prosecutors, they didn't give Trump due process. They with his impeachments.
Oh no, because they wanted to screw him over.
No, there was no due process. I mean, there's allegations. I read articles where Harris, when she was going through because she's on the Senate, going through the confirmations of Trump's people, whatever, there was no due process. She just, assassinated them. So it's interesting. But here's the thing, the way I read it, and I'm not a scholar, I'm not a lawyer, but what I understand is due process is not you have it, but it's degrees. In other words, if you come into this country, like there was Germans during Germany. Now, we were at war, okay?
Right.
There was Germans who got off a German U-boat off the coast of New Jersey or whatever, and came in and did some sabotage. They got caught, they were tried, and they were hung. There was no, due process. Now they had a trial, but so due process, even during wartime. But there are other people who say that due process is modified by who you are. So when when you had 9/11, right? You had the Patriot Act. Yeah. So if you were an American citizen and an Iranian citizen, or American citizen, dual citizenship, and they had you outside the country, they could put you in a what's the word I want to use? Put you in Guantanamo Bay, torture you.
An internment camp.
Right. So, the due process is this way, that way. I agree, believe it or not, with the Supreme Court, and I think everybody is due process. Yeah. But I have this thing about when you come in here illegally.
Oh, there's the word.
So is it due process? As soon as you step on our soil, you required to have due process? So except wartime. So but I don't know the answer.
You're talking about due process for people who are not citizens of America.
Yes, but there's court cases. So if you're not an American citizen, you come in here, and you
shouldn't that be a right for a sovereign citizen and not for somebody who isn't?
Again, it has to be I don't think the law. That's why this is going to come to a head, because I don't know the answer to that. You make a good point, but I'm just making a point. the conflict here is due process, and are there degrees, are there shades of due process?
Gotcha.
So in other words, does American citizen have one level of due process, and a legal terrorist have a different due process? There's a great movie I just watched when I was working out. It's called The Incident. Okay, I just want to make a point. It's called The Incident. And back during World War II, while the war's going on, right, we would bring German soldiers, prisoner of war, and put them in the United States. We had internment camps, okay?
Yeah.
And there was this one movie where it was Walter Matthau. He was a hometown lawyer. And what happened is one of the soldiers murdered the doctor, American doctor, while in the camp. And what it really was there was the Gestapo in the camp killing their own. They were security, and the United States military were letting it go on, the local guys. And they killed the doctor because he was going to basically, open up and just say, continue. He was going to go to the officials about it and uncover these murders, because it was the Gestapo inside the camp. Anyway, what was interesting about that is that they wanted to have a trial. And they wanted to have a good trial, because if the guy, so he's a war criminal now, not a war. He was a prisoner of war, and they gave him a trial. Actually, the one guy who was indicted wasn't the one who was doing the murdering. Mm-hmm. And they were going to send this guy back. They wanted to convict him and then trade for people in the other three of our pilots who got shot down in Germany.
Boys back. Yeah.
Right. So my point is that, there's due process. So these are now prisoners of war. So you go through the whole thing. Now, during the Civil War, which is a war, but really wasn't a war against another country, Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, which is not due process, but pretty much it's in that line. Habeas corpus means you got to go in front of a judge.
Right.
So I think that this is a very interesting situation right now. I don't know the answer. I was listening to
Boiling Pot.
I was listening to Dershowitz. I like listening to him. He has a podcast, Alan Dershowitz. That guy I really like. I think he's pretty sharp.
Right.
And he talks about, all of these things and where it's going. According to him, the president has absolute power to deport anybody. So, it doesn't matter. Just if you're illegal here, he wants to deport you, you're gone. Now, that's not saying you have to have some kind of due process, a judge. See, the problem with all of that is how are you going to get rid of 10 million people when you have to have everyone go in front of a judge? It'll take 30 years.
Right.
Unless you have some industrials, like you put them all in a stadium, like you put them in a giant stadium, and then so you're all out of here. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah. And I think there's other ways of what are going to happen. My opinion, if you have these people here and they have no jobs, don't give them welfare. Don't give them Social Security. Don't give them a driver's license. They're going to leave. They'll self-deport.
Right.
Don't give them food stamps. Yeah. Cut them off. And then, and if they cause a crime, jaywalking, whatever it is, they're out of here. There's a lot of ways. Or how about this? Listen. If you're here illegally, we'll give you a plane ticket home. Go home, and then we'll put you on a list if you merit it to come back as a citizen,
right.
or a green card or whatever.
The correct way.
The correct way. There's a lot of ways, and they closed the border, but they still. Here's the thing: they closed the border, but you still need to have some kind of legislation. The legislative branch, Congress and Senate, got to pass some comprehensive, immigration laws. So, and the other thing is an interesting concept. What do you think about this? Mm-hmm. If you're illegal, you come in here, you come in here illegally, go through the border, and you're pregnant, and you come to New Jersey and you have the baby. Now, should that baby be American citizen? Automatically.
If it's born on this soil?
On this soil, yeah.
It used to be. That was the case.
That's not what I asked you. I didn't ask you what used to be. I said what should be. What should be now? What do you think about that one?
Well, maybe the baby is, but it doesn't make the mother or father, does it?
Say that again? Okay, well, then you get anchored. But should the baby be American citizen? So let me go back in this. Let me ask you this. What other countries can you use an example? I can tell you right now in Tortola, where I worked, even if you had sex with a local, say and you're legal, you're in the country legally working, and you're from St. Lucia, right. And you get impregnated by a local who's a citizen, a belonger, that child does not automatically become a citizen. I think when a child turns 18, they could apply for citizenship.
Right. Here's a question.
It's not guaranteed. I think Germany. So my point is, so in the world, it is so if all of these progressive countries, are so progressive, why don't they do that? I don't see that happening in a lot of other places.
If a woman goes into labor on a ship coming to America, right? She starts her labor in international waters.
It's where the baby's born.
And the baby is born just as it enters American waters. Is it a sentence? Like you can go ridiculous like that and still not really think of an answer.
So what happens is it's called anchor babies. You come. It's been happening for years.
Oh, it's called anchor baby. Oh, it has a name.
Right. So
see, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So what happens is it's been going on for years. 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
You would have in Mexico. You would have a baby. They do an ultrasound. The baby's got autism.
Right.
I mean, not Down syndrome.
Down syndrome.
They don't want to get an abortion. They're Christian. They're Catholic. So they ship them up here to New Jersey. They drop the baby. The baby's now American citizen. And then through the baby, you could get the family to come as a And it was a long process, but they did that. And it was far and few between. And I think it was, nobody really was saying, oh, bad, because, then the child got good care. But when you have 10 to 15 million in a 3-year span, a lot of these people, Trump says like criminals and everything, but a lot of them are not criminals. A lot of them are people who have sick. Like I had a kid who was 32 years old, nice guy, speaks no English, and he has no job skills. And I don't even know if he graduated high school. But he's an insulin-dependent diabetic. He came here because he couldn't get care.
Gotcha.
Now, the Mexican government or wherever he came from, they could care for him too. But a lot of these people look for opportunity. So a lot of these people didn't come here. They came here for economic benefit and medical care. Yeah. And you and like I have no problems with that, but you can't have that many people. And who's going to pay for it?
The streets are paved in gold.
Right. So you know what I say? I tell you what. Trump. Yeah. Anybody who makes 150,000, no taxes. And then you know what? I don't give a shit what the government does. Bring everybody in. But don't take my money away from me,
Right.
And to pay for this shit. So it goes on and on and on. So
vicious circle.
It's a vicious circle. But this. My point is they're looking at that now. So that's going to go to the Supreme Court. I don't know how they're going to rule on that.
Yeah.
Because that came from the Civil War, and it's black. So if you were a black person, you weren't even considered a citizen. You weren't considered a human being. You were considered a property, like an animal. So they had to put that in writing that if you're born here, you are an American citizen, irrespective of being black, white, whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that's going to be an interesting one because a lot of countries you're not automatically citizen if you're born on that soil.
Right.
You could apply, and you may have like for me, I wasn't born in Germany, but I have German descent. My mother was Polish and German. Okay. And so so I could theoretically go to Germany and apply for citizenship if I could prove my lineage.
Right.
I hear that's a possibility.
I have joint citizenship with Britain.
Yeah. But so I don't know where it's going to go. But this whole thing about merit, equality of outcome, equality of opportunity. And I think that what Trump's trying to do is go back to equality of opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think that's a better productive way.
I think he's doing great. This is my personal, assumption. Like you can't expect these great changes to happen overnight, especially when they were screwed up royally. It takes time, and he's warned us about that time. So now we just got to wait. But I feel 100% positive about the transparency and all of that.
All right, good. Well, listen. Anyway, well, thank you for everybody tuning in. Jeremy, just want to give a little heads up. We're going to end it today.
Yeah. Next week, I'm going to bring in a book about Donald Trump's poetry. And some of the haikus he writes about, like, Obama and Hillary Clinton are hysterical. I want to read a haiku or two.
All right, so call us. If you want to call me in my office, it's 732-269-1133. Let's go to YouTube. Please like us and subscribe. Go to my webpage. It's really informative. If you got some issues, medical issues, it can really give you some information. That's
JerseyShoreFootAndLegCenter.com.
.com.
Right.
All right, everyone. Listen, thank you very much, Jeremy. Tell us We'll
This
see
was
you
a
guys.
ball. I
we'll
had a
see
great day today.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week, boy, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.